Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of the beautiful Andante Cantabile by Gluck, which is in our Old Masters for Young Players series. The link is below for you, and hello to my Patreons. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy this little series. We're going to finish this one up today. And there's also a special, for those of you on Patreon, link to, or attachment I should say, in your post for today's lesson or this week's lesson with my markings. So I've written in fingerings all the things that we were talking about today verbally. You can just find them in the attachment on the Patreon page or the Patreon post. So although if you're not on Patreon, you should go join it. I would love your support and I'd love to see you there. But you also don't necessarily need the attachment in order to follow what we're doing today. So today we're on the second half of this beautiful piece. So there are 6 lines. We did the first 3 lines in part 1. We're going to do lines 4, 5, and 6 today in part 2. So let's take a look at line 4. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to go line by line and just go over some of the tricky things. I'll play it and then we'll play through the whole thing together and give it a whirl. So let's look at line 4. So line 4, the first measure, you've got a dotted 8th note and a 16th note. We've got a grace note and a quarter note. And then you've got another dotted 8th note and a 16th note. So we're going to put in the rhythm there. We're going to put in the counting there, because how on earth are you going to figure out the value of a dotted 8th note? So we have to subdivide in 16th notes to figure that out. There are 2 16th notes and an 8th note. The dot adds a third one. So 1 E and then the fourth one is that little 16th note is tied to. So in line 4, measure 1, let's put 1 E and then over the 16th note put an 1 E and The next one is going to be beat 2. Beat 2 starts on the grace note, which is tied to the quarter note. So just put a 2 over that. Beat 3 starts on the dotted 8th note. And we already know a dotted 8th note has 3 16th notes in it. So we're going to put 3 E and then on the 16th note. So that first measure of line 4 is 1 E and 2, 3 E and okay. Measure 2 we're going to skip. Measure 3, I've popped in the counting for this one. So measure 3 is not that tricky, but we do need to subdivide because we have a triplet coming up and we need to figure out how exactly long the triplet is. So the half note, we're going to start subdividing on the half note. So we're going to write 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And then over the grace note tied to the triplet, 3, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. So let me play you this 4th line here, and then we'll go on to the 2nd line. Although actually there is one last little detail which I didn't write in, but we will go through it together. It has to do with the dynamics in measure 2. So 1, 2, 3. 1 E and 2, 3 E and 1, 2, 3 E and 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. All right, won't be the last time that we hear it, but if you're confused, you can always review. Let's look at measure 2. So measure 2 has this little symbol that looks like this, which is the decrescendo. So we're going to get quieter. And beat 3, the 16th notes begin on a piano, which is very quiet. So in order for us to do that, we're going to use a lot of bow on beat 1 because that's the loudest note out of all of them. 1, 2 has less bow. And then beat 3, we're going to use very little bow. 3 E and 1, 2, 3 E and that's the easiest way to achieve a dynamic difference. It's just using more or less bow. So in measure 2, see how much bow I use on that first note? Then the second note, the 16th notes instead of. So beat 2 or measure 2 is. And we're going to stay there. Here's the beginning of line 5. On measure 2, that little grace note is an A. Let's put a 4th finger on that. That way you're already on the string. So line 5 you can do all at the tip of the bow because it's piano. It's really quiet. See if you can stay there at the tip of the bow for line 5. The end of line 5 has the word crush, which is short for crescendo. And this is going to happen over a few bars. So see if you can hear how it builds. Here's the first stair. And the second stair. And then it dies away. And then our beat 3 belongs to the next part, which we have to go back to line 3 for the repeat. All right, so remember the easiest way for us to do dynamics is to just use more or less bow. So since we're crescendoing, we're going to eventually, when we get to the forte, use the whole bow. So we're going to build and make sure that you don't die away at the beginning of line 6. What are the notes? Sorry. Instead of, because we're trying to crescendo through them. Instead of. Does that make sense? So I think those are kind of the trickiest places. In part 1, we talked a lot about the rhythm. And so I don't want to bore you to death too much when it comes to rhythm. I think we learned probably a thing or two last time in part 1. So let's try the whole thing. Let's just go back to the very beginning. I'm going to put the metronome at 50, which you don't have to play it at. You can always go faster or slower. You can play along with me, or you can just do the left hand, or you can try and sing along with me, try and feel the grandfather clock and see how that always stays steady and how the rhythms in between can be, you know, all sorts of different interesting rhythms. So let's take it from the beginning. It's piano dolce. So we're going to be in a really quiet, gentle part of the bow. So maybe the upper part of the bow. And we will take the repeat at the end. So we'll go back to the 3rd line, and then we'll end in the second ending at the end. There is a moment where we have a retard in line 6. There's a retard which pulls back the tempo. So there's going to be a moment where I don't stay with the metronome there, and I'll do that the first time when we take the first ending, and I'll also do it the second time when we do the second ending. So it'll happen twice, the retard. Okay, so from the very beginning, I'm going to count a full measure, and then I'll subdivide 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. One E and a. Fourth finger. So you guys, that is it for our lovely Andante Cantabile by Gluck. I hope you enjoyed it, and the last thing that you have to do is to go find a pianist friend to play this with, because that's one of the beautiful joys of music, is playing music together with your friends. So go make a pianist friend. If you don't know where you might find a pianist, you can always look around your area and look for a church. Churches usually have musicians, and especially pianists, and they're really nice. So you could always see if you could connect with somebody there and just have some fun playing music together. And also, don't expect that you need to be perfect on your first get together with your musical friend. Just tell them that you're learning. It's a work in progress. You've never played with another person before, for example, and that you're just, you just want to have fun and try it out and just learn together. So, just don't expect that you have to sound perfect on the very first rehearsal. Usually first rehearsals are a total mess. So anyways, with that, I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this lesson today and have a fabulous time practicing. Lots of love.